Well, hello, EKN Nation. Welcome to a new edition of the EKN Debrief. It is, of course, our race report podcast, all part of our EKN trackside coverage. Episode number 109. It's Wednesday, March the 13th. My name is Rob Howden. David Cole will be doing the heavy lifting here today as he was down south at the start of the United States Pro Kart Series for the 2023 season. Their opener, the Southern Grand Prix at the Orlando Kart Center in Orlando, Florida. David, before I jump in to present the show's presenting sponsor, cool to get the season underway. USPKS, obviously a great start.
Great start to get that program underway. Great time to do it. March obviously is a great time to get down to Florida, be at the Orlando Kart Center for the second year in a row to open up the United States Pro Kart Series, which entered its 11th season. So very exciting time surrounding this program as it continues to be one of the largest in the country.
Yeah, no doubt. Obviously, in this first segment, we'll jump into the overview. We'll have a look at the numbers as well. But this week's show is presented by Parolin USA. It all started in 1994 when former kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion for karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products. We run a factory race team at all the major Superkarts USA, USPKS, and Rock Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis lineup for 2023 includes the Invader Shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior drivers, the 28mm Opportunity model for the cadet classes, and the Daytona 4-cycle chassis. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. Obviously, Parolin has been one of the top karts, David, in cadet competition. Not surprising. We'll be talking a little bit about that probably throughout this show as well. But again, the opening round of the USPKS, the Southern Grand Prix, March 10th, 11th, and 12th, were the dates on the calendar. You mentioned already the Orlando Kart Center in Orlando, Florida, kind of the focus of karting through the month of March with the USPKS, Florida Winter Tour, and the SCUSA Pro Tour all having events here during the month of March. But again, round one, I have a 5-round championship, and I don't want to go too much into it. But again, round one, not 1 and 2, round one as a single main event format for the 2023 season.
That's exactly it. Ushered in a new era for the United States Pro Kart Series, not having double round weekends. And this was just a single round event, very similar to what you see at the Florida Winter Tour, Superkarts USA Super Nationals, and of course, in Europe as well, because they do it correctly.
One winner.
One winner in per category. That was the biggest thing. That was, we'll get into it more a little bit into the paddock pass, but it was a very exciting, again, different. It just had that different feel because, again, something brand new, a new era ushered in with that format. And of course, weather, anytime you get to Florida, that was obviously a big topic, and it got warm Sunday. Nearly into the 90s,
wow.
In the high 80s, low 60s each day, but, clear blue skies, a little cloudy. I think it was Friday evening. They actually did have a little bit of rain sprinkled down overnight, and that was the only precipitation. So essentially it did rain on the weekend, but not while we were on track.
What about humidity? Was it humid down there?
No, not the humidity you're used to in Homestead. So that was a good thing. So yeah, it was just really sunny.
Right.
We had a good steady breeze throughout the weekend. Luckily, it was from the west and not the east, because it would have brought all the limestone from the asphalt and concrete manufacturing that goes on next door. That would have brought all of it over like it did last year when the winds changed direction and came from the east. So. But again, still makes the track a little bit dirty with the breeze blowing around. You have basically a dump next to a car dump, or what do you want to call that? I
don't know what they call it again. I can't think of the name of it. Like a junkyard.
Junkyard. That's the word. Yeah. Junkyard dog. Yeah. It's basically a junkyard next door. So all those cars sitting there collecting dust and debris and all that great stuff gets blown over onto the racetrack. So it does make for a little interesting, when karts go off. It is a dusty, kind of sandy dust, so it's not really dirt. So it does kind of slick things up a little bit. And of course, when the weather gets hot, what happens to the racetrack? Gets very, very greasy. So that was pretty much the story regarding the racetrack all weekend long.
Well, let's go to the buy the numbers as we do in every edition of our debrief here. Again, talking about the USPKS Open, the Southern Grand Prix in Orlando. Rob Howden here with David Cole. David, high watermark last year, big start at 323 entries. And anytime we talk about 100 being a solid number for a club or something like that, 150 for a regional, man, you get into close to the 200, all of a sudden you're up to that big major league race, over 200, then 250. USPKS settling into these numbers at over 300. 323 last year, 303 entries. They were able with walk-ups to get over the 300 mark. That's their third. Is that their third race in the last 2 years over 300?
Third race in the last 2 years.
Wow.
So it's the third highest because the GoPro event last year, the second round or second weekend of the season was, I believe, at 308. So just below that. But yeah, so Orlando's been able to produce, over 600 entries over 2 years.
Man, isn't that crazy? That's fantastic. Cadet category is looking really strong. 31 in the micro category, 46 in mini. Number of drivers moving up a little bit because we did see a jump in the KA100 junior class. So you expect a number of drivers. We talked about this, David, in the outlap, a bunch of rookies going into KA100 junior. 56 in KA100 junior, 57 in the senior category. Ends up with 113 drivers running in the KA category. This class, this level of competition has really been cemented over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you could run a series with just micro, mini, KA100 junior, KA100 senior, and if you want masters, and call it quits.
Yeah.
I mean, those numbers alone are solid regional program, if not almost national, numbers. So it's incredible to see those numbers. And again, the spectrum in terms of talent, range from some of the nation's best all the way down to club drivers still coming up and racing. Nope. You there?
Yeah. I thought I lost you there for a second.
Sorry. Nope.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah. The inflection of your voice. I didn't think you were
sorry.
Yeah. It's what happens when you're not in the studio together, ladies and gentlemen. I'm of course up in Canada. David's in Grand Rapids. So we can't quite see each other. We probably should have. We don't even have the video on right now. We could be looking at each other.
It would probably drain too much of your internet bandwidth. So
you're the one that drops all the time. I don't know.
I do not recall that. So
all right.
Anyway,
X30 Junior and Pro, 29 for the junior drivers, 39 in Pro, not 57 that they had last year in the X30 Pro category. But we said before, almost 40, so almost still a full field. So you can't look your nose down on that category at all. Obviously, the two new ones we should touch on, David, here in this edition of By the Numbers. KA100 Masters. The Masters category running X30 last year. They make the move to KA100 this year with a bump up to 27 drivers. Six more drivers. I just think the KA100 Master program is going to be strong and it's going to grow across the entire country this year. We talked to Brittany Loba last night in our show, our face-to-face show, about the TSRS, the Texas Sprint Racing Series, and how it's got a solid group of Masters drivers. This KA100 class, I think for Masters, is a really well-suited. Just the performance and the actual drive itself, I think, really suited for Masters drivers.
Yeah, and I think, this brought in, drivers from the Florida area. We saw that at the SCUSA Winter Series where the numbers were really good there in terms of the X30 side of things. So it made a great transition for that. And then we're going to head the United States Pro Kart Series heads to Texas next year, which, as we talked with Brittany, it's one of the largest regional programs for KA100 Master right now in the country. So I think, don't be surprised if we do hit that 30 mark for KA100
I was even going to say 40. I was going to say
40. I think 40 is a stretch. I think, because again, you got I would probably say about 15 drivers that are for sure going to be at every single race. If not maybe more. So 15 to 20. And then, so you're going to add in at least 10 local drivers where you go. That's kind of where I'm looking at it.
All right. That makes sense.
Because you go to Houston, we're going to go to Motorsports Country Club where they have a following of Masters regional drivers in the KA100 category. A GoPro obviously is going to be big numbers as well. And we'll see what we get at Newcastle as well too. So you're going to get that mixture of everything there probably. So I think 30 is going to be the mark to be at for K100 Masters.
I like it. I'll let you finish things off here with the By the Numbers, David, because obviously one of the biggest thing that was added this year, other than the change in the event format for USPKS, was it throws in a pro shifter category, which you kind of need to, USPKS is obviously the top national program on the East Coast, if not the country, with the numbers they're getting right now. They don't go, of course, west to make it a full national program, if you will, in air quotes there. But adding the Pro Shifter brings that big show in, the top level of essentially, gearbox karting. 18 in total for the first weekend of Pro Shifter. I think that's a pretty good number to start the season.
Yeah, it's a great number, and they were setting the goal at 20 because that's what the payout was going to be. And then ended up saying, okay, we're too short. We'll still pay out the purse for the category because they did get that close with 18 drivers. And again, it wasn't looking that way about 3 weeks ago with, I think they had less than 10. So good numbers there. Again, you have national champions in the category with AJ Myers, Danny Formal, and Martin Kremers, along with master champions such as Jordan Musser. You had Andre Martins, track owner of Orlando Kart Center, getting involved in the race as well too. Victor Jimenez as well. So it brought in a few masters drivers as well too for the category. Again, not necessarily racing for the win, but a great opportunity to get track time. I'm assuming Musser's getting it for, testing to the Pro Tour Winter Nationals as well. Yeah. So, again, it's a good balance. Personally, I didn't like the idea of adding Shifter, but it was a great addition, following the first weekend of having them there. And again, you can never get away from that sound. You cannot smile when you hear guys pulling gears down the straightaway, guys and girls down the straightaway.
Yeah, 100% on that, man. I love my shifter cars, as we all know. All right, folks, there's your first segment here on this edition of the EKN Debrief. When we get back, as we continue to talk about the opening round of the USPKS program, we'll head into the paddock pass. Dave's got a bunch of stuff to talk about that wasn't on the racetrack, more stuff that happened in the paddock. Stay tuned. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network. In karting, it's important to be supported by the right people. With over 40 years of experience in the sport, Trinity Karting Group has everything you need to make your program successful. We do it all, and we do it right. Trackside support and arrive and drive programs at many of karting's biggest East Coast events, full product sales and service, and professional coaching from our experienced staff. Trinity Karting Group is a full-service operation based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, which gives us access to our custom-designed driver training facility. This allows us to offer private one-on-one coaching to take you to the next level. From arrive and drive and coaching programs to the parts you need, let Trinity Karting Group provide you with customer service and a racing experience second to none. Trinity Karting Group is an official Kart Republic race team, providing full trackside support at all the major USA karting events, including the SCUSA Pro Tour, United States Pro Kart Series, SCUSA Super Nationals 25, and other events throughout the 2022 season. TKG has in stock Kart Republic, IAME, MG and Avinco tires, and more products for those in Ohio and the Midwest region. Trinity Karting Group has a long history of the sport, a winning pedigree, and we're dedicated to driver development. We take pride in our professional approach and our positive attitude. Let us build a custom race program for you. Give us a call at 513-421-4463 or check us out online at trinitykartinggroup.com. In racing, experience is priceless. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience, and we can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. Check out our online store at www.franklinkart.com, where all our products are just a mouse click away. We're constantly adding to the growing product selection on the online store, and we ship daily to ensure products get to you quickly. We specialize in IAME engines, tilt seats, ceramic products, driveline branded products, Briggs & Stratton engines, OTK products, and of course, the championship-winning Merlin chassis. In our online store, you'll find a variety of items to fill your karting needs. Franklin Motorsports is also known for our wide variety of services and is home to Innovative Engine Works by FMS, our in-house engine service department. Frame straightening, kart prep, and dyno testing are all services offered regularly at Franklin Motorsports. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. Welcome back to episode number 109 of our EKN Debrief, our race report podcast, where we take a deep dive into the event that happened usually the past week. And again, we're talking about the USPKS Southern Grand Prix, the opening round of the series for 2023. Over 300 entries logged. So obviously another massive event, the third biggest USPKS event in history. My name's Rob Howden, joined by David Cole, as we jump into the Paddock Pass right now. This edition of the Paddock Pass presented by Mega Power. For over 20 years, Greg Bell has been building race-winning power for kart racers. The name on this program, Mega Power. If you want to win shifter kart races, it's time to put Mega Power on your kart. Mega Power specializes in gearbox engines such as the TMKZ, Rock Shifter, and Miami Shifter, but with almost 3 decades of engine building experience, Bell develops winning motors for X30 and Mini Swift and everything in between. Increase your odds of winning in 2023 by calling Greg Bell today at 209-747-2613 to put Mega Power in your corner. All right, David, you got a bunch of notes down here for the Paddock Pass. A lot of great stuff happening. Start of the season, driver moves, a bunch of different stuff happening to start off this schedule for the USPKS.
Yeah, more so that I could cover on a Friday afternoon, especially with the format and changing the qualifying to Friday afternoon. So made for an interesting day. Of course, we talked about it in the numbers. It's another big one. The United States Pro Kart Series having another event of over 300 entries. As we said, the third time in series history and third time in the last essentially year, dating back to last year's Orlando event. So, but in order to accompany the large numbers, you have to have the paddock. And last year, obviously, it was a tight fit. This year as well, too, a tight fit. But this year was a little better as, Andre Martins and the Orlando Kart Center were able to pave the actual paddock itself. So completely repaved. Everybody put down their tarps to make sure, the asphalt wasn't damaged as everybody was there. But just that alone helped to, I think, line up the trailers and haulers a little bit better than the way everything was lined up last year. So that certainly helped in terms of getting everybody in. And I think they still have room to grow. And now, mind you, there's not a lot of parking for passenger vehicles around the racetrack, but they do have room to grow in terms of welcoming in more trailers and more tents, etc. So it'll be exciting to see that. But also during the weekend, I think it was Sunday, I ran into both Ricky and Jordan Taylor. They were in attendance to check out some of the karting events going on. They were actually talking with Parker Eves, to his family, who is connected with obviously the Hendrick racing team. And so that was cool to see them here checking that out. And again, they just came off in December racing at the WK Daytona Kart Week with the Margay Ignite program. Yeah,
I saw that the Margay actually has one of their karts, I think, up for sale right now. I just saw that. Check it out on Facebook.
Yep. So that was kind of the opening of getting to know what was going on in the paddock. One thing I kind of focused on, and we, again, we're still trying to focus on that with United States Pro Kart Series and all of karting is it's still a family sport. And that's one of the cool things you see a lot of times throughout the paddock at the national events. You see father and sons, fathers and daughters, mothers there supporting and wrenching and doing whatever they can with their sons and daughters as well, too. But it's great to see, Tommy Anderson back behind the wheel now in the Masters category. It's crazy to say that with a 30-year-old, but having his dad Tim on the wrenches. So
welcome to my world, David. Welcome to my world. You've been around this long enough now that the kids that you used to cover in cadet are now in the Masters. You've been around long enough.
It is a strange deal. Yes. Cause I remember Tommy as a little guy, going out racing for WK Eagles. So that was pretty cool. And then again, there was actually a full team. It was called they're called Team Tarp. Lucas Palacio was under there, Aiden Levy. Trying to think who else was it, Kai Mars and another other driver as well too. But basically it was 4 drivers, 4 dads, all with Martin Pierce as their driver coach. It was so again, very unique things. And again, everybody, you don't have to be part of a big team if you don't need to, you don't want to, that's, and United States Pro Kart Series has been one that encourages the club people to come and race and be part of, something fun and unique.
I like that a lot. It's one of the things about this sport. You go back and look at some of the, when at least on my feed on Facebook and social media, I have a bunch of vintage stuff. I have a bunch of, people that have been in karting for a long time. So you see that, since the very beginning in the 50s, 60s, 70s, it was always the parents were always there, man. Young guy, you go back to Tony Stewart, him and his dad at the racetrack, right? It's such a family sport if you allow it to be, right? If you focus on what was really the positives of it, as opposed to whatever you want to get for your child, however far you want to get them to be, as long as you're deeply involved, especially early on, it gives them the opportunity to look back at this thing when they get to be older, for sure.
Yeah, exactly that. So and then the next thing, as you mentioned as we were starting this topic, was drivers with the same names and a new home. That both included Caleb Gaffera and Hayden Jones, both moving over from Rallison Performance Group, joining Trinity Karting Group, making their debut with aboard the Kart Republic. So, talked with them. They got comfortable with it, doing testing here and there. Jones obviously racing at a local event as well too. So, and then testing down in Orlando. So again, just kind of a weekend to get accustomed to their new homes as well. And then again,
Dave, I was watching a bit of it on Kart Chaser there, and it was hard for me to pick up some of these guys because when you got guys in new colors, you try to look at the helmets, and it was like back in the day before like NASCAR, and we had social media, and we knew what was going on. You watched the 500 for the first time, Daytona 500, and you have to get comfortable with what the cars these guys were driving. It was the same thing. I was looking for Gaffera, I was looking for Jones, or guys I was looking for on the racetrack, and they were just in such different colors. I was having trouble picking them up. It was interesting.
Yeah, that's obviously part of it when people make that move. Obviously it was the same thing at SCUSA Winter Series with some drivers moving up to a new category, or moving race teams as well too. So and then the final thing, again, no longer single speed only at United States Pro Kart Series. We talked about it by the numbers. Adding shifter karts to the class roster for 2023. So now up to 8 categories on the weekend. And again, it brought together some of the best in the nation and from around the world. I think we had drivers representing, at least 6 to 7 different countries of the 18 entries that we had there.
Yeah, pretty wild for sure. Good to see that program add that shifter kart component. As David said, great sounds, but fantastic drivers for sure. All right, into our next break, folks. When we get back, it's time to jump into the race report. We'll have a look at the X30 Pro category, the KA100 senior class, and we'll wrap up our next segment looking at Pro Shifter. Don't go anywhere. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network. Made in the USA. That's exactly what you get from Precision Karting Technologies. Based in Detroit, Michigan, PKT brings over 35 years of manufacturing experience to the sport of karting. Their passion for the sport began focusing around the Kid Kart platform and has expanded every year with hundreds of products designed to put you on the podium. Precision Karting Technologies is known around North America for their successful line of axles, available in all age groups. PKT manufactures a number of engine products for Comer, IAME, Rock, Rotax, and the popular Briggs & Stratton 206. A wide variety of chassis components for the many brands in the sport are available through PKT, including hubs, pedal risers, skid plates, and other hardware for your kart. Axle straightening, chassis adjustments, engine service, and specific CNC machining projects are available through their Motor City headquarters. To learn more about the many products and services available from Precision Karting Technologies, head to pktaxles.com. Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 with a Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and a Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the junior, senior, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for the 2023 season include the Ignite Majors, which begins with the annual trip to the Daytona International Speedway as part of the WKA Daytona Kart Week as part of both the sprint and road racing events. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the regionally based Ignite Challenge, which just finished up a record-setting season in 2022. Local club programs have also been established in other states all across the country, from Idaho to Texas, Nebraska to New York, with more tracks and clubs joining the Ignite karting program. Be part of fast fun and great memories with Margay Racing at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and out onto the track in 2023. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. Welcome back to episode number 109 of the EKN Debrief. Rob Howard alongside David Cole as he talks about his trip to the US PKS opener, the Southern Grand Prix in Orlando, Florida. We'll jump now into the race report, which is presented by Acceleration Kart Racing. Acceleration Kart Racing has everything you need to go racing, from tires to helmets. They have a great website for you to order from, and kart racers ready to pick up the phone and answer your questions 6 days a week. With over 20 years of kart racing under their belts, Acceleration Kart Racing has the experience to help you succeed on the track. You can rely on them to get you the parts you need when you need them. Make Acceleration Kart Racing your go-to source for everything karting. Head to www.shopakr.com. All right, David, we'll jump in here with X30 Pro, the category brought to you by Franklin Motorsports. And here's the headline for the weekend. Dukmejian caps off return with thrilling victory.
Yeah, this category lived up to the hype again,
Yeah,
something we wanted to see. Something we're not used to seeing is all these different names and drivers fighting for victory up front, essentially all because of what happened in qualifying. Ryan Norberg went out and did exactly what we thought he was going to do and posted fast lap in the session. Unfortunately, came in basically a half a pound underweight and was disqualified from the session. So he was going to have to start the main event from the last position, or the
heat races.
Every heat races from the last position and work his way up each heat race in order to get a solid starting position for the main event. So his disqualification put Diego Canteca into the top spot and the pole position for all three heat races. Unfortunately, just wasn't there race time when all three heat races were held on Saturday. Ended up being Paulie Massimino scoring the victory in Heat 1, and then senior rookie Aiden Ingrata winning both Heat 2 and Heat 3. Ingrata had an issue at the start or at the end of the opening heat race, was in the lead, but as they were racing, I think it was him and Carr kind of locked bumpers together, and he had no way of turning and basically went straight off into the end of the straightaway and ended his race early. So they thought it was funny. Everybody thought on the fence it was an engine failure. Thankfully, it was just couldn't turn the wheel, and after getting a bumper lodged into Brandon Carr, fellow senior rookie as well too. So we had Massimino, Ingrata. So Speed Concepts Racing sweeping the three heat races on Saturday. Massimino finishing in the top 5 in Heat 1, along with winning Heat 1 and then finishing second, both Heat 2 and Heat 3, putting him on the pole position for the main event. Diego Canteca was right there, able to only move over to the outside of the front row with Brandon Carr and Eli Goldstein, the driver for Race Lab and the TB Kart, coming over from Europe to be their entry in the X30 category, rounding out the top 4 for the main event. The main event, basically, it was, again, the focus was long race, 26 laps, and you're looking at over 50 seconds per lap. So it ended up being basically a marathon that a lot of drivers were not used to. And during that time, also tire degradation was an issue. Everybody in this category started on new tires for the main event because of the 2 sets per weekend allowment. So the race started essentially a 3-driver breakaway. It was Massimino, Canteca, and Brandon Carr that were out front and pretty much had a good, solid gap over the battle for the 4th position, which was a lot of heated racing. It included Ryan Norberg, who ended up getting to 12th, 11th, and 12th in all three of his heat races after starting 38th. So he started 10th.
Wow,
So
nice.
he was among those drivers trying to fight for position, but nobody was giving any inch. That included Ari Dumejian, Zachary Clayman DeMello, Aiden Ingrata, Hayden Jones, a lot of drivers just all fighting it up for the fourth position. Eventually ended up being Duke Mejian and Mateus Morgado, the 2022 world champion, that were able to break away from that P4 fight. And they eventually ran down the top three drivers as the race continued on. By the time Duke Mejian and Morgado got there, they quickly knifed their way through those top three drivers, including Kanteka, who actually retired once they reached there. He had some kind of a mechanical issue and pulled off the racetrack. So it was actually only four drivers up front then towards the end of the race. But it was Duke Mejian and Morgado that really showed the pace once they got to the front of the field. Morgado tried to get by Duke Mejian, but Duke Mejian just was a little bit more calculated, was able to kind of keep him at bay, being at one of his home racetracks, and just made the right moves and was consistent over the last couple of laps to be able to claim the victory. Probably I think it was his first victory since 2021 at the United States Pro Kart Series. Morgado
running the DAP chassis as well, right?
Running on I was going to get to that when I broke down the top five. So,
right.
So Morgado ended up crossing the line in the second position. Unfortunately, he was removed following tech inspection. So that's kind of an interesting story to follow as the season goes along, in terms of him trying to, even if he's going to come back and race or not, with the championship nearly completed or out of hand with the disqualification.
Yeah.
That moved up Ryan Norberg from the third spot to second, who was able to fight his way forward. As we said, started from 10th. He had a penalty originally, but I think they rescinded the penalty. I'm not sure exactly. I still have to investigate that a little bit more. Obviously, the end of the day is a little chaotic with people wrapping up and officials trying to close up shop and get going, and wasn't able to confirm that. I heard afterwards that was the case. So still not sure if that's official or not.
And then continue.
Yeah, I was going to say, so then, so that moved with Morgado's disqualification moved everybody up behind Duke Mejian, as you said, aboard the new DAP chassis manufactured by Kart Republic, to Norberg second, Aiden Ingrata into the third position. So he was a top rookie of the top five, or of the field, just ahead of fellow rookie Brandon Carr in the fourth spot, with Tyler McIntyre up into the fifth position.
Yeah, good run for McIntyre to P5. Solid.
Yeah, solid drive for him. Massimino was in the fight as well, and just once he got caught, fell backwards and continued falling back. I think he ended up finishing in the ninth spot.
Hard charger went to William Batillier, 15 spot advancement, started 31st up to 20th. But when you look at the overall advancement for Norberg to come from where he was deep in the field into the top 12 in all three heat races, and then comes home with a second position run for him after the disqualification from Morgado, that's pretty impressive for Ryan Norberg.
Yeah, we'll have to set up an Excel sheet to grab everybody's qualifying position, and then where they finish on the end of the weekend, and see who's made the most gains.
I like that.
We'll work on that for Houston.
All in all, big win for Duke Mejian to come back in and kind of get in there and be able to fight with the guys that have been racing all start of the season, all last season. So good for him to come back in and show what he's made of.
Yeah, and we'll see if he continues on and fights for the championship. That's still kind of up in the air. Depending on schedule. He's not sure yet exactly what races he'll be at. I do know he's going to get a new suit, both a DAP suit and Kart Republic suit. So there is more karting in the future for Ari.
What I haven't actually looked online. Do we know what his plans are for this year for racing? I know that he did some racing overseas, of course, last year, and some. I'm not sure.
No, he hasn't confirmed anything in terms of what he's actually racing. So, like he said, everything's kind of up in the air right now.
Yeah, very interesting. He was looking at. I know he tested with Carlin in F3, so we'll see what happens there. Let's move now to the KA100 Senior Class, presented by Mike Doty Racing. Here's your headline: Miles complete sweep for second career USPKS victory.
Yeah, the quote-unquote rookie, not much of a rookie after winning in his opening weekend last year in the senior category, really was the pacemaker. He set the tone throughout the weekend, setting fast time and qualifying ahead of fellow race winner last year, Brandon Lemke, and former series champion, along with Connor Ferris in the top 3. Miles won every one of his heat races in the split format, A versus B, A versus C, and A versus D. He won all 3 of those heat races. Well, the other 3 remaining races were won by Lucas Szabo, Josh Campbell from the West Coast, and Josh Holtz, who I joked around as being one of the older drivers in the field, but I think Lemke's got him by a year. So so Holtz might look like he's the oldest driver when you look at him, but I think Lemke's got him by a year. So yeah, really wasn't sure who was going to be the driver to kind of put the challenge to Miles. Moving into the main event, we had Miles on pole position with Josh Campbell starting on the outside of the front row with Lucas Szabo in 3rd and Josh Holtz 4th. But it was Nicholas Turecki starting 5th that ended up being one of the top challengers for Miles, along with Aiden Levy and many, many others, as early on it was kind of just a wild first half of the 26 lap race with just drivers going back and forth. We actually had at one point, Noah Russer went from 6th to 1st in one hairpin corner. Now, mind you, this is only the first half of the race.
I saw that. That was pretty impressive.
But they're running defensive lines into the long straightaway hairpin.
Yeah.
And so I think Turecki was actually leading, or it might have been Miles just got to the lead through one of the corners and ran defensive. Well, everybody followed him through. Well, Noah just said, choo choo, I'm going to go right around the train. So
it was there.
Exactly what he did.
Wide open.
He held it. Yeah, it was match perfect staggered special.
That's it.
And just amazing move. Unfortunately, the next lap, he made contact with the wall in turn 8. So that kind of hampered his performance the rest of the way. And we weren't able to see him towards the front again. But Turecki and Miles basically were the drivers fighting up front in the second half of the race. Each of them led at a certain point, but eventually Miles inched away with the lead lap by lap as they kind of battled behind him for second. And at the line, it was only a 9/10 victory, with Christian Miles earning his second victory in USPKS competition and only his 3rd start.
Yeah, Levy ends up coming home in 2nd, Lemke 3rd, Phillips 4th, and Bailiff 5th. The Peyton Phillips, and was that Finnegan Bailiff, right? Gavin was
Finnegan, yep.
Yeah, Gavin was on the shifter on the weekend. So good job for Bailiff and Phillips into the top 5 as well. All in all, though, David, before we go to the hard charger, for Miles, what a great way to start the season here in K100 Senior, to have that kind of speed on the entire weekend, not just the day, not on Sunday, but the entire weekend. It's got to give him a lot of confidence going into the remainder of the season.
Yeah, without a doubt. This is one of those kids that is among the top in the country for sure. And just, something about him, and, he's almost like a little Lemke, where, the 100cc category is just, it's his bag. He just has a handle on it. Unfortunately, at the end of the race, Turecki, who was, again, among the leaders throughout the race, a little bit of contact between him and Phillips. I think, again, a bumper situation where I think his got collaged in with the rear bumper of Phillips. He went straight off into the S's and just wasn't able to continue recording a DNF, because all in all, throughout the whole weekend, it was a pretty clean weekend for Turecki. Unfortunately, that last lap kind of ended it all.
Hard charger in KA100 Senior belonged to Spencer Mast on the Cosmic, up 15th spot, started deep in the field. 46. That would be dead last, right? There's 46 drivers in the field, so started last.
Yeah, got the final transfer spot in the wild LCQ. That was one of the things.
I was going to ask you about that.
LCQs in KA100 Junior and KA100 Senior start off Sunday morning. And I tell you what, the KA100 Senior, it was one of those that we love to watch. So where a guy who was running 7th, he went for it in the final corner, and he got to the inside of 6th place, but also made contact with the 5th place driver and took both of them out of the race.
No.
But as a guy on the sideline, it's crazy to watch it. It's fun to watch it. It's just heartbreaking for both of those drivers.
Top of your head, do you remember who won that one?
Yes, it was the Franklin Merlin driver. Let me see if I can find his name here. I can't find it. I'm in the wrong category, maybe. I'm in the wrong category.
I'll get started. You bring it up. I'll get started with Pro Shifter. You have a look for it. Pro Shifter. What?
We can't go to the next one, can we?
It would take you 10 seconds to find it.
What if we just talk like this a little bit? It was Alex Feldstein.
All right, there you go.
Won the LCQ.
That's the way. Now, now I won't bring that up. We'll go with that. Oh, I was just wondering if you're going into because you said 2 sets of tires, right? Did anybody put fresh tires on for the LCQ?
I wasn't able to check the grid. I was busy getting the videos and photos and stuff like that. So
you're working your ass off. There's no doubt about that.
But I don't think. See, that's the thing I should have investigated a little more is the tire rule for that category. I did for the mini and micros. They're on the one set the entire weekend.
The entire weekend.
I did confirm that. I was talking with some people on Sunday.
Okay.
I just, again, another thing I don't think about because I'm not competing. So I just don't even think about that.
All right, let's go to Pro Shifter. We'll come back to that later and find out when we'll talk to the guys about it. Pro Shifter presented by SRP Engines. Here's the headline. Formal becomes inaugural winner for new series class.
Yeah, it was Formal that ended the weekend, at the top position. But to begin the weekend, it was former world champion and reigning Superkarts USA Pro Tour champion Marnie Kremers scoring what I believe is an unofficial track record. I wasn't able to confirm or deny it, but in qualifying laid down a 50.154 lap time to clear the field by nearly a couple tenths in the session and beating out AJ Myers and Danny Formal. But in the heat races, it was Myers that stepped up to the plate and was not the quickest on track, but was able to win all 3 heat races. It was actually Formal who had fast laps in all 3 heat races. So it's very weird. Formal was the quickest on racetrack, but Myers ended up winning all 3 heat races. Formal finished second in the opening heat, while Kremers finished runner-up in the second and third. Formal finished third right behind him in those 2 races as well. So essentially it was a 3-driver fight that we we're going to expect in the main event with Myers and Kremers on the front row. Myers was able to grab the whole shot and keep the lead for the opening 7 laps until going into turn 1. It looked like he just made an error or dropped a wheel and lost a lot of nearly spun out. So both Formal and Kremers were able to get by. He came around the racetrack, made his way down the long straightaway towards turn. I guess it's turn 9. Yes, turn 9, and went straight off. And so we thought, okay, it was either a mechanical issue or something. Something broke. It ended up being the master cylinder gasket failed. So he lost brake pressure and was unable to slow down. So obviously a terrible position to have that off. Obviously a terrible time for that to happen being in the main event. So Myers recorded the DNF. The pass that Formal made as Myers made his first error, that was the winning move as Formal basically led the remainder of the race unchallenged by Kremers. And Formal was able to pull out to a 1-second advantage over the world champion to record the inaugural victory at the United States Pro Kart Series for Pro Shifter.
Yeah, big for the Rawlson Performance Group, of course. Formal joining that team last year. And also a big win for an OTK product, right? It's been a while since we've seen that one of the OTKs winning on the national level.
Both OTK chassis and Vortex engine as well, too. You think probably all the way back to maybe when I think he said when Artigo was a winner at the Super Nationals, might have been the last time a Vortex and OTK chassis won at a national event here in the United States.
Wow. I think for the OTK, would you go back to probably Kyle Wick, I think at the Pro Tour race, maybe? Does that make sense for on a Tony kart, maybe?
I don't believe he ever won on a Tony kart.
Did he not win at we have to go back and look. I think maybe he
did not win on a Tony kart. He was on CRG. When he first began with Rawlson, I think he was on a CRG from what I recall. He won the championship one year without winning a single race too.
That's true. So it's an over 1 second win for Formal. Kremers ends up in second on the Burrell Art machine for PSL karting. Another good run for Giorgio Carrera, running the Lenzo kart for International Motorsports. He's obviously been in the fight throughout the first quarter of the season.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Carrera.
Yes, Carrera. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Carrera. I think I was asking you. I think he's a former USF Juniors
Well,
racer.
he ran USF Juniors last year, but he has extensive experience in a number of different F4 series over in Europe. He's actually got his way.
Gotcha.
He's also run F3. He's done a bunch of F3 races. So a very experienced driver who came over here last year to run USF Juniors with International Motorsports, is kind of connected with them and continues to race with them in their shifter kart program. They've got the Lenzo chassis. We saw a couple drivers on the Lenzo. He ran the SCUSA Winter Series. And yeah, I was kind of surprised that he's continuing here. It's a guy that I think we need to maybe reach out to find out what the plans are for the rest of 2020.
Yeah, along with he and Carol Pasowicz, they were the two Lenzo karts in the field. He actually finished, I believe, yes, Carol was in the 5th position, but a pushback bumper penalty dropped him out of the top 5. That promoted Justin White into the top 5. So yeah, that's Lenzo kart. It was kind of right there, him and those two drivers, along with Hunter Pickett, they were kind of the second group throughout much of the weekend. Also, Gavin Bailiff was right there, kind of on the cusp of entering the top 5. They're still trying to figure out exactly how the Kart Republic shifter kart frame works and seeing what it likes and what it doesn't like. So again, that's the one thing about having this category is the opportunity for drivers to get more testing, more seat time, and while at the racetrack racing one another. So
yeah, expect these drivers to be there in a couple of weeks' time when we head there for the SCUSA Winter Series, or rather the Winter Nationals as well, right? So good opportunity for them to get on track. All right, folks, another break in the action. When we get back with the race report, which is being presented by Acceleration Kart Racing, we'll come back and talk about X30 Junior, KA100 Junior, and KA100 Masters. More to come after this break. Is IndyCar your dream? If it is, for 2023 and beyond, the path from karting to IndyCar has gotten even clearer. It's time to look into the new USF Juniors program and the brand new Tatis JR23. As the first step of the newly rebranded USF Pro Championships presented by Cooper Tires, the USF Junior Series will feature a 6-event, 16-race schedule to train racers for the move into the USF 2000 Championship presented by Cooper Tires. The USF Juniors champion will win a scholarship worth over $248,000, and the total prize fund will exceed $330,000. The series will also debut the new Tatis JR23 race car in 2023, which is a development version of the USF 22 used in USF 2000. It's the ideal entry point for career-minded karters moving on to the car racing ladder. Safety is always front and center in the mind of the series promoters, and the USF Juniors car features a halo, and the races are supported by members of the AMR IndyCar safety team. If IndyCar is your goal, USF Juniors is the starting line. For more information, visit www.usfjuniors.com and follow USF Juniors on social media. History, success, family. Those are the 3 words that can describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation located just outside of Indianapolis has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their online store features everything you need, continually adding new parts to their product line. From full karting packages, new engines, spare or replacement parts, and safety gear, find it all at CometKartSales.com. Their Comet Racing Engine service has won multiple major events and championships over decades of karting and continues to offer the best trackside service in the industry, specializing in IAME X30, IAME Swift, and other 2-cycle power plants. Make sure to head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. Welcome back to episode 109 of the EKN Debrief. David Cole giving us a full report on the opening round of the United States Pro Kart Series, which took place last weekend at the Orlando Kart Center. Worked our way through 3 categories so far as part of this race report, which is being presented by Acceleration Kart Racing. We'll jump now into the X30 Junior class presented by Rawlson Performance Group. And here's the headline: Rivera dominates to claim first career victory.
Yes, this is a driver who's got a lot of momentum since November, picking up the victory at the Super Nationals.
Yep.
done so throughout the months of January and February down in Florida, and continued that this weekend. It looked, however, to be Stephen Miller, who we know has done really well at the Florida racetracks over the last couple of years. He actually set fast time in qualifying, edging out Rivera by 1/100th of a second with Teddy Musella in the third position. However, Rivera, once he got racing, was the driver to beat, as he was able to lead the way in all 3 heat races to secure the pole position for the main event. Musella was the driver in the second position on the grid. So it was a Rollison Performance Group 1-2 front row for the main event, as Miller started in the third spot. He had an issue in heat number 2. I believe he was either leading or fighting for the lead with Rivera and had a spin. So he fell down the order in heat 2. So that kind of cost him a few points and put him third on the grid alongside Max Taylor. The main event, it was Rivera and Taylor who was able to break away. Taylor starting in that 4th spot. And those 2 Rollison Performance Group drivers were able to lock up and kind of pull away from the rest of the field, as it was a heated battle for the third position throughout the entire 20 to 26 lap main event. Rivera actually led the final 22 laps, was challenged by Taylor late in the race, but was able to fend him off, especially on the final circuit, to be able to claim the victory. It was a close finish, 4 tenths separating the top 2 drivers at the line. However, Taylor suffered a pushback bumper penalty, so he got 3 seconds added to his time. Thankfully, they were out far enough ahead of the field to be able to hold on to that runner-up position. So it was Rivera in the top spot and Max Taylor in the second position for a Rollison Performance Group 1-2 finish.
It was actually a Rollison Performance Group 1-2-3, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't Jackson Woolney, I think, finish third, and he got a pushback too? I saw that in the results in your report.
Yes, yeah, I was there, scale line, waiting for them to cross, and both sides were pushed in. So that bumper was basically just hanging on for dear life.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, took away a podium finish for Jackson Woolney. As you said, crossing the line in third, ended up finishing in the 8th spot. That promoted Oliver Weldon, who I had no idea until I had to look back and look at the results. Weldon was unable to make a lap in qualifying, so he had to start each of the heat races in the 28th position. So pulled off a very similar performance to what Norberg did, finishing 12th, 17th, and 13th in the heat races to start the main event from the 12th position. And again, with the heated P3 fight, was able to fight his way forward. And as we said, crossed the line in the 4th spot. And then with Woolney getting the penalty, moved him up to the 3rd position on the podium.
Wow, that's a big, both we talked about Norberg already coming forward, and for Oliver Weldon to do that as well. That's, you know what, for me, a lot of the time that shows kind of the mental maturity of a young driver, David. Obviously, he's in his first year running in the X30 junior category on a full-time basis. Very impressive to be able to keep himself focused and to get to where he needs to be. A P3 after that start in qualifying, that's big for Oliver.
It's very big, that's something we've seen before. He's able to kind of knife his way through the field and does it very well. And, I'll get into it a little bit more later, but that's with the way this format is, it allows that to happen.
True. Yeah. The recovery from qualifying can happen if you stay the course through the 3 heat races.
Exactly.
Cap off the top 5, Dave.
Emma Kate Scarborough in the Chad Dockin Racing Kart Republic, or Donner. Wait, Dockin. Yes.
Dockin.
I always get this. There's a Chad Donner.
There is. Too, so
I get those two mixed up.
Yeah.
And then Leonardo Escorpioni rounding out the top 5.
There you go. What happened to Miller in the main? Did you already say that?
No, I didn't. I think this one he was in both races
because it's a carbon copy. Those again,
it was a very similar thing. I want to say this was where they made contact, him and Vid Montien. I'm double checking that, but the heated battle for third, there was a lot of racing going on. I'm trying to see.
I'll just, as you look there, I'll just say this. Obviously, through the SCUSA Winter Series, we've seen this, and then of course, we're going to see it all year. I have a feeling that Stephen Miller and Ernesto Rivera are going to have just great battles all year long. You can throw other drivers in there, Scorpione, Masella. I'm not sure how much racing Max Taylor is going to do. Oliver Weldon's going to continue to get better and better. Yeah. But we're Miller versus Rivera. We're going to see a lot of that this year, I think.
It was contact with Masella. So lap 20 contact between those two drivers. So Masella ended up finishing 10th, Stephen Miller down in the 13th position.
Late race, yeah. A tough one for him for sure, despite showing the speed throughout. But again, we'll talk more about him on the next one because he's up top quite a bit. The hard charger in X30 Junior was Caleb Campbell on the Tony Kart, up 10 spots, started 24th and ends up finishing in the 14th position. Let's move to KA100 Junior, which is presented by BBS Racing. Here's your headline. Rivera doubles up with career firsts.
Yeah, the KA100 Junior category was actually the first class on the racetrack, but the way I put the script, I put X30 first. All right. And essentially it is, first victories in both categories for Rivera. So it's interesting the way the weekend played out because Rivera didn't look like he was going to be the driver to beat in KA100 Junior. That driver was Stephen Miller, as we just mentioned earlier. Miller set the fast lap in qualifying and won all three of his heat races, very similar to what we saw in KA100 Senior with Christian Miles.
Yeah.
Vid Montien was the driver in the one of the drivers to Vid Montien won two of the heat races that Miller did not, and then finished second to him in the A versus D heat race. And then the B versus C heat race actually went to Brinkman after Rivera suffered a 3-spot position penalty for contact. So Rivera, towards the end of the week, kind of was there. Rivera finished second, and then won that provisionally that heat race, and then fell down the order. So that put him third on the grid. But again, really never was kind of in the lead. Just was right there and kind of fighting for position. So look, going into the main event, it was still kind of everybody had their eye on Miller. He was going to be the driver to beat. The main event kicked off, and let me just say, this was the one you thought KA100 Senior was wild. This was probably the most craziest race I had seen. I just this sheer number just freaks me out and is just amazing because 19 official lead changes in 26 laps.
Wow.
And that's just official, just at the line.
Yeah.
That doesn't include all the other passing moments that happen before they get to the line as well too. So again, once they started racing, there was no telling who was going to be the driver to win. Eventually, as the race wore on, Rivera was able to grab the lead coming to the white flag, and that was the winning move. I don't remember the pass. I don't remember who it was on because there was just so much lead changes, so much change for position. Basically, Rivera grabbed it at the end, leaded when he needed to, and was able to win by just over a 10th over, I forgot Luque's last name. Fernando.
Luque, yep.
Fernando Luque aboard the Tony Kart. So it was a wild one. Again, Miller was right there all race long. Unfortunately, it didn't go his way. Ended up finishing in the 3rd spot aboard his Kart Republic. Leonardo Scorpione ended up finishing in the 4th spot after Max Taylor suffered 3-position penalty for contact. So that moved Scorpione up into the 4th spot and moved Eli Warren, one of the up-and-coming drivers making that transition from 4-cycle to 2-cycle, finishing in the 5th spot aboard his Red Speed.
Yeah, big win for Rivera to go back-to-back. Obviously, he started it off. You said this was the first junior race for them, so Rivera gets the day off, started off well, and then backs it up with an X30 junior win. I got to believe, David, that Stephen Miller's looking forward already to getting to Houston, to Speed Sports Racing Park, to see if he can't come back in to the next USPKS race and get those wins that maybe eluded him on this particular opening weekend.
Yeah, without a doubt. Again, in his home state, he's performed really well at a lot of the Florida racetracks. We saw him do well at the Super Nationals, of course, winning one of the main events there in the KA100 Junior category. So again, yeah, I would expect redemption being on the mind for him heading into Houston.
Hard charger in the KA100 junior class was John Antonino on the CRG, up 29 spots. That's a big move from the back. Started 44th, was able to drive his way up to 15th. And David, we talked about this a little in the Outlap preview podcast. You talked about the way this racetrack is designed with a lot of hairpins. As much as I watched throughout the weekend, you could see the minute you opened up, to get the corner, to set for the corner, to get a good run out of the corner, guys would dive down the inside. There's so much opportunity to make a pass on drivers, especially if you're significantly quicker. So for Antonino to come from deep in the field, must have been a fun drive for him forward.
Yeah, coming from the last chance qualifier, finished fourth, got his transfer spot in, and wasn't quick. His lap. You look at his best lap time, he was almost 9/10 off what the leaders were doing, but I think he had the long-term pace. He didn't fall off at the end of the race. He just continued to keep passing everybody. When you look at the field, 37 drivers took the checkered flag, so he passed a lot of race cars.
Right, no doubt. All right, let's cap off this segment and go with KA100 Masters. We talked about how this category transitioning from X30 last year to KA this year. The category brought to you by Speed Concepts Racing, and here's the headline. Rollison sets tone for new category.
Yeah, it was a new era ushered in with shifter karts, but a new era also with the Masters category moving from the X30 engine to the KA100 power plant. And I think this is going to set up for some exciting racing and exciting championship chase as we move along throughout the season. Last year's X30 Masters champion Danilo Romalo was the quickest driver provisionally in the qualifying session. Unfortunately, was removed following technical inspection. That promoted Mike Rollison, who was just off his pace, or just off Romalo's pace a little bit in qualifying, moved him to the top spot as he would lead the field to the green flag in all three heat races. The first heat, he fell back a little bit, Rollison did, but was able to fight his way back into the front. Unfortunately, it was without a battery.
Oh, no.
I think early on, lap 2, it might have been, he came through the S's where everybody's making the jumps, and the battery disintegrated. It came in million pieces, it seemed like.
Wow.
And he was able to continue on and race. Unfortunately, came in underweight after losing that battery. So that moved Martin Stone into the race win and gave Rollison a disqualification. So in the long term, did not exactly help him for grid position in the main event. Rollison went on to win both Heat 2 and Heat 3, starting from the pole position with a mixture of different drivers in the top 3, including Martin Stone, Scott Kopp, Tommy Anderson, and Alex Dancho. So it was kind of a mixture of who was going to be the top challenger for Rollison heading into the main event. With Rollison's disqualification, however, put Martin Stone on the pole position for the main event alongside Alex Dancho, a driver taking advantage of the 200-pound, I believe it's 200-pound or 190 or wherever the weight limit is. He used to race KA100 senior the last few years, so he's moved up to the master category due to the weight
option.
That's a good word. I'm just trying to think.
I got you, dog. I got you.
So the main event, again, Rollison started back in, I was supposed to pull that up and I forgot to. Rollison started back in the, I want to say 9th position.
Wow. So Stone and Dancho on row 1, Laurentu Mardan and Nicky Coelho on row 2, Scott Kopp on row 3, P5. How far back was Rollison?
6, sorry. 6th position.
All right. So outside of row 3.
No, that's the wrong lineup because they had a change. Yeah. So we'll just go with 6.
All right.
6 sounds good. Oh, yeah. So outside row 3. So not too bad, but considering he won 2 heat races, that certainly helped his position and obviously other drivers having issues as well. Tommy Anderson.
Look at your notes there, Dave. You have Rollison P7 at the start.
Yeah, that was wrong. Sorry. Well, so can I explain something to you why?
Yeah.
So right now, my laps, there's 2 different race results on my laps. So again, we use this. This is my Bible. This is what I use.
100%.
Unfortunately, Orbitz continues to put out new software updates. So let's see, 5.8 was what it was. Now there's a 5.9. Well, guess what? Race Hero doesn't work with 5.9. So we have to go back to 5.8. Well, we can't go back to 5.8 now because Orbitz won't let you go. So there's a lot of bullshit that I had to go through and Ali Long had to go through. And it's still a lot of bullshit because it's all on it uploads to two different versions of the results. So I'm trying to find the one that I'm supposed to go to, and I can't find it, and it's pissing me off, Rob.
David Cole's rant, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by Howden Media Group.
Brought to you by Orbits.
Brought to you by Orbits and My Labs. Oh, my God. Good for you. Dave, you feel better? A little bit?
No, I need to yell more. So he
All right.
started 6. So I found the correct lineup. So yes, it was 6 because the reason is Romalo was penalized. Was supposed to start 6. He came again from last to 5th, and I believe it was 7th or something like that, and 12th. So he was actually supposed to start 6th, but he received a disqualification as well too for another technical issue. So that the original lineup had him Rollison in 7th, and then the actual start put him 6th. So that's
let's talk about the racing. Let's get away from the grid sheet. Let's talk about the race.
Yeah, well, depending on where you start, matters a lot. The outside line was not the best spot, Rob.
No, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. A couple drivers in the front were able to hold the spot, but man, yeah, if you were second, third, fourth row, man, it was tougher, wasn't it?
It was a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
It just, especially when you had to get in line for that quick left-hander, that's where the shit stirred a lot. And so Rollison starting 6th didn't exactly get the best start, but was able to be 5th after the opening lap. And then methodically worked his way. He got one driver per lap and was into the second spot by lap 4, and then set his sights on Martin Stone. It was great. The two drivers kind of just pulled away from the rest of the field. It was Laurencio Mardan that eventually moved into the 3rd spot. So you had 2 drivers out front, Mardan solo in 3rd, and then the rest of the, 3rd group fighting for the 4th spot. And Rollison didn't look like he was setting up. He was waiting for something to happen, and he did it towards the end of the race. And then him and Stone just basically went back and forth. Rollison made a move, and then Stone came back. Rollison made a move, then Stone came back. So it was kind of a good back and forth between these two drivers. But that allowed Mardan to close right back, close right to the back bumper of both of those drivers towards the end of the race. So Mardan was in the mix as well too. But Rollison just was able to better Stone in the closing laps with a couple of moves and be able to get away just a little bit, and did so in the closing laps to be able to secure his first USPKS victory and the first for the K100 Master Division. Yeah,
super cool to see the team owner of the Rollison Performance Group get out there and do some racing. I know he ran the second weekend of the SCUSA Winter Series as well. So, there's still that burning desire to get a chance to get behind the wheel, but also to bring, more. Number one, I talked to Mike afterwards. You bring more information into the team, obviously by, for that level, for the Masters category, to, setup wise, whatever it is, gearing, but also to, David, you also kind of, you reiterate the fact that what you're talking about, right? You're sitting there when you're talking to your Masters drivers or whatever, you're telling them what to do, and hey, you haven't raced in a long time. You're telling me what to do, but for Mike to go out there and lay the laps down, now you come back and you kind of reset, I think, your expertise within the team, right?
Well, especially with the X30 junior drivers finishing just before his race, so they're on the scale line. They're able to watch as they're waiting to scale, Mike on the racetrack. So they're able to see him perform on the racetrack rather than, goofing off at the tent. Sure. They're kind of forced there to watch and see what the boss man does on the racetrack.
It was 1.18 seconds, the margin of victory between Rollison and Laurent Mardan, who got into second, Martin Stone finishing in 3rd, Tommy Anderson in 4th, and Scott Kopp on the Merlin rounding out the top 5. We mentioned Romalho and some issues that put him deeper in the field. Started 16th. He is the hard charger, up 10 positions to finish 6th.
And I did confirm KA100 Master and KA100 Senior did get 2 sets of tires. So they were they're harder compound, but just like the X30 categories were given 2 tires.
All right, folks, another break of the action. When we get back, we'll wrap up the race report, which is presented by Acceleration Kart Racing. We'll give you a deep dive into Mini Swift and Micro Swift. More to come on this edition of the Debrief.
If you want to challenge yourself against the best drivers in the sport, put the United States Pro Kart Series on your calendar. Established in 2013, the USPKS is entering its 11th season following record participation numbers. The 2023 season, presented by MG Tires and IAME USA East, is slated to hit 5 major tracks over 5 weekends to decide the champions in the now 8 categories. The season opens at the Orlando Kart Center on March 10th through the 12th with the USPKS program visiting the Orlando, Florida facility for the second straight year. 2 new facilities will welcome USPKS for the first time in 2023. Round 2 takes place at the crown jewel of Texas karting, Speed Sports Racing Park, on April 28th through the 30th. The track is located just north of Houston. The other new location is the repaved and extended Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati in Batavia, Ohio, and the date is set for the August 25th through the 27th weekend. Newcastle Motorsports Park sits between those 2 new tracks on the schedule, hosting Round 3 on June 23rd through the 25th. The USPKS 2023 finale is confirmed for the unofficial series home at the GoPro Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina on October 5th through the 7th weekend. The event will include the series year-end awards ceremony on October 8th. There's a reason this series is logging record numbers. Come find out for yourself. Head to uspks.com for more information. Move up to karting. Move up to the USPKS.
Are you ready to go from karts to cars? Since 1975, the Skip Barber Racing School has taken great drivers and made them champions. Today, we're proud to welcome the next generation of winners. Make the transition from karts to cars with the Skip Barber Formula Race Series. You'll compete at the most iconic tracks in America. Race weekends include your very own equalized Formula 4 race car, a professional crew, expert instruction, video and data analysis, hospitality, and more. This is the place to fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. Sign up today by calling 866-932-1949 or visit us at skipbarber.com.
Welcome back to episode 109 of our EKN Debrief as David Cole gives us his race report from the USPKS opener in Orlando last weekend. Of course, starting off this 5-weekend program. We'll move our way into the final segment of the race report presented by Acceleration Kart Racing. We'll go to Mini Swift, which is sponsored in the USPKS by DNJ Intermodal Services. Here is the headline: Palacio claims career first.
Yeah, it was a good performance, something we saw at the SCUSA Winter Series by Palacio, winning 3 of the 4 main events down there. And aside from qualifying, it was all Palacio. They missed the setup, unfortunately, in qualifying. The axle shifted, so it slowed his pace down in the session. Julian Rivera was actually the provisional pole setter. Unfortunately, he had a pushback bumper during the session, so he lost his fast lap of the session. That promoted Ashton Woon, last year's micro champion, to the pole position for all 3 heat races. Unfortunately for him, Palacio adjusted the axle and made it stick. The remainder of the heat races, Palacio went on to win all 3 heat races, starting from the 7th position on the grid. And so he earned the pole position for the main event alongside Max Cristia, Ethan Tovo, and Marco. I'm going to say his name wrong again. Samet. I knew I was going to say it wrong.
That's all right.
Filled up the second row. So again, Woon had some issues. I think there was contact with him and Tristan Murphy in the opening heat race, so that cost them valuable positions on the grid for the main event. Main event, however, was probably the more boring race when you look at it at the front, because Palacio led every single circuit en route to what is his first United States Pro Kart Series victory in the Mini Swift category, winning by just over half a second over the field.
Yeah, Tristan Murphy coming home in second on the Nitro, Antonio Pizzonia Nito on the Parolin P3, Julian Rivera on the Energy, as David had mentioned, had the fast lap in qualifying, but that pushback knocked him down. Kaimar is rounding out the top 5 on the Kart Republic. And for Rivera, although he wasn't able to get the fast lap, the way things kind of shook down in the heat races and where he started the main, both he and Pizzonia Nito, David sharing the hard chargers, both those drivers coming up 15 spots. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, Rivera just wasn't able to get himself up forward in the heat races for some reason. That, losing that fast lap put him down the qualifying order. So just wasn't able to get into the top 10 throughout the heat races. Neto had some issues in one of the heat races, so that moved him down the order. So he started 18th while Rivera started in the 19th position. So they both moved up 15 spots. Tristan Murphy also up 12. Again, he had 2 runner-up finishes in the heat races, but that first one with contact dropped him down to nearly last. So that put him down the order to 12th for the main event grid. So good drives by all 3 drivers who were the class of the field once for that battle for second.
Good start for Pizzonia Nito as well. Just one more final note for Mini, knowing the fact that he started the season off in the Micro Swift category in the SCUSA Winter Series. So here's a kid that's jumped up into the Mini Swift class, is micro age. So good job for him to get on the podium, David, in that opening weekend.
Yeah, but if I recall, Palacio's micro age as well, too.
Yeah. Let's not bring Palacio into this right now. he
well,
was he 9? I think he's 9 now, isn't he?
Yeah. So, they're both very young drivers in the mini category who, again, you can race mini until the age 12. So that's the interesting thing. So, Pizzonio Nato, I think he obviously being his first weekend in the mini is he's got some work to do. He's got the pace. There's no doubt about it. But I just noticed in one of the heat races, it was lap 2 and he's already defending. And it was like, no, you don't do that. So we'll see how he continues to progress moving up to the mini category.
All right, let's cap off the race report here, folks, with Micro Swift presented by Team Ferris Racing. Here is the headline: Ives drives to first USPKS triumph.
Yeah, it was almost similar to what we saw in Mini, as the top qualifier wasn't able to kind of perform once we got to wheel-to-wheel racing. But it was a great session put in by the top qualifier. Oh, I'm trying to get to it here. Sorry, I forgot his first name. I'm trying to find it.
Get her dialed in.
I'm telling you, back-to-back weekends, Rob. They wear on you. Josh Bergman.
How do you do it, David?
How do you do it?
How do you do it? Try 4 in a row, my friend.
Yeah, it's okay.
But listen, it's all good. I'm not gonna bang on you.
No, you're just trying to fill content because I'm trying to find the name. That's okay. Josh Bergman. So the Sodi Kart driver, PK Sports driver, great debut for that brand and the team on those colors to be able to set fast time in qualifying. Unfortunately, just wasn't able to race well. Ended up with a best finish, a 3rd over the 3 heat races. However, it was Parker Ives that was the top driver in the heat races as he came up from. See, too many. I'm telling you, too many spreadsheets, Rob. That's the problem I got right now.
I know, Dave. Just work on it.
So Eves was able to drive his way to the lead and to the win in all 3 heat races. So it was a really good performance by him. Again, it was kind of one of those drivers we thought we were going to see do well, because essentially this is his second full season in the category. So Eves coming up from that 5th position in all 3 heat races to score the race win, and then now led the field to the green flag, starting on the pole position for the main event. Out front, it was a 4-driver fight. It was basically Eves with Aston Wyatt, Maxwell Macha, and Colton Scheinenberg. See? Schniegenberg.
It could be Schniegenberg, actually. It's IE. We should confirm that. We'll confirm
it's
it.
It's IE, yes.
It could be Schniegenberg.
Correct. Schniegenberg. See, my German should come out. I don't know.
That's it.
So those were the 4 drivers up front. Wyatt actually lost the draft a little bit about the halfway point. So ended up being 3 drivers out front. Parker, however, led the final 8 laps. He was challenged throughout the way, but never relinquished that top spot and was able to drive his way aboard the Nitro Kart to victory and his first in USPKS competition.
Yeah, Maxwell Macha coming home in 2nd spot. Colton Schniegenberg on the Energy ends up in 3rd. Wyatt and Luke Giglio on the Kart Republic capping off the top 5. Looking at the results, David, Josh Bergman, you mentioned Josh running that Sodi Kart, qualified on the pole position. Actually turned the fast lap of the race as well, but didn't get to the end. Not sure what happened to him, but didn't get to the end of the main event, although did have the fast lap. So again, he'll have something he can hang his hat on looking, for the next weekend when they get to Houston.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, it might have been contact that took him out of the race.
Okay. Yeah, it happens. Obviously, as we know, Jake Manalio on the Alonso up 11 spots as your hard charger in the Micro Swift category. Started 18th, fought his way to the top 10. Anytime you start outside the top 15 and you end up in the top 10, even up to 7th, that's a pretty good day.
Yeah, great day. And again, had just a little bit better pace than some of the mid packers towards the end of the race. Wasn't the quickest in terms of fast lap, but continuous movement upward and gained, I think, 3 positions on the final circuit.
All right, folks, let's wrap things up after this break. One more little stoppage here. We'll hear from some of our sponsors and come back. We'll wrap things up. We'll look at the Constructors' Championship, and then we'll look at the EKN Trackside Live race calendar for the month of March and April. It's a multi-time world champion, and it's a SuperKarts USA Super Nationals winner. It is Sodi Kart. And starting in 2023, the Sodi brand has found a new home here in the U.S. Sodi Racing USA is the new exclusive importer of the Sodi Kart chassis line under the karting distribution banner, led by industry veteran Terry Germanovich. The French manufacturer Sodi Kart is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. The Sodi Racing chassis line offers product in classes from Mini to KZ, all based on years of development and championship seasons around the world. Sodi Racing USA has already begun establishing its dealer network, working with the Karting Collective on the West Coast and recently signing PK Sport to serve as a dealer and the official race team on the East Coast. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about the Sodi Kart chassis line or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Sodi Kart, the world leader in the karting industry. Made in the USA. It's not just a statement, it's the mission at Factory Karts of America. Led by 4-time Supernats champion Billy Musgrave, Factory Karts manufactures their frames completely in-house at the Riverside, California facility. Built and designed from the ground up specifically for the American karting market, Factory Karts brings new innovations and solutions that are long overdue. Factory Karts bring together the highest quality materials to produce a high-performance, long-lasting kart that has been designed and perfected from 3 years of development, with a focus for a big push across North America in 2023. No other karting manufacturer stands behind its product like Factory Karts does, providing a 2-year warranty on all their frames. Do you remember when American made meant innovative, original, stronger, faster, and just plain better? Well, American made is back. Contact Factory Karts today to join the American made movement. Learn more by visiting factorykarts.com or email Billy anytime at info@factorykarts.com. Welcome back to episode 109 of the EKN Debrief. We've worked our way through the race report. Now we'll wrap things up as David Cole giving us his insight from a weekend of trackside coverage at the USPKS opener in Orlando, Florida. David, what's your thoughts on the wrap-up?
Obviously, the format, that was kind of the big topic. A lot of positive feedback. Obviously, it's tough to get away from the 2 finals per weekend because everybody loves that warm and fuzzy feeling of if I do bad on Sunday or Saturday, I can come back and race again on Sunday.
The do-over, right?
Yeah, the do-over feeling. So I think there was a lot of positive feedback about it. And obviously there's ideas of adjustments, reducing the amount of laps for the heat races, maybe by a couple, just to kind of help save on time. The USPKS is possibly looking at extending qualifying to 5 laps rather than 3 laps. Maybe just not enough time for competitors to get a solid lap in before, the tires come up to temperature. There's also the talk of maybe splitting up the main events on Sunday, very similar to what we see at Rock Cup USA Florida Winter Tour and Rock Vegas, and even Super Nationals for like the heat races. So Sunday being, 4 classes having your warm up and main events, and then going to warm up and main events for the other 4 categories. So
what's would that be to get the podiums done and the
no,
right
it's so you're not sitting there for 5 hours after warm up waiting for your main event.
All right, okay, I get that.
You look at it, the warm ups were done by 9:15. Well, those last categories, X30 Pro and Mini, they sat around for nearly 5 hours before their main events. So that's kind of the issue. You don't want, especially the Mini category, you don't want them sitting around for 5 hours with nothing to do in a race paddock, because no scooters, no bikes, none of this, none of that. They get into trouble.
That's true. This is true.
So that's part of it. So, but again, you also have to, try and get the last chance qualifiers in before, and try and not, rush those drivers as well. So again, just looking to fine tune and see what's going to work and see what's not. I will say it was way better than last year's format when we were in Orlando, trying to do both qualifying sessions on Friday and then just running pre-finals and finals and last chance qualifiers on each Saturday and Sunday. It was way better than that. I will take the one final format. I will take the long Saturday that we had any day over any other format, myself personally, and then what we had last year.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Good insight.
Yeah. Because again, the main events on Sunday, we were done at a pretty reasonable time. I want to say around 3:30. Unfortunately, you still got to wait for tech. There's 8 categories that they have to tech, and Rick Jump's not one to just brush things off. He wants to make sure people are legal. There's, what was the prize package? Over $18,000 in cash prizes being awarded. So again, it does take time and fine tune it. Again, this was the first time they've done it, so it's about fine tuning it.
Agreed. What about you? You had mentioned tire wear earlier. Talking about tire degradation, was that actually a thing throughout the weekend?
It was, especially in the shifter and X30 Pro, even in KM 100 Masters, they talked about it. The track changing, the way the tire just wasn't, holding up to what it used to. So I don't know if it was rather weather related or if it's a tire, just not having that same long wear, healthiness, or I don't know, or just maybe, very similar to what we see in NASCAR. They're not, guys aren't able to adjust their chassis for these long runs that we have in the main events. Because again, 26 laps, that's, that's longer than Super Nationals. That's longer than anywhere else we go. So maybe it's just that we talk about it, some people wear out the tires a little more than others, and so they're not good at the end. So I
love it.
Instead of blaming themselves, they're blaming the tire itself. So it's something that obviously we'll follow. We'll see as we go along, because again, this is the first time we're running 26 lap main events. It typically was around what I want to say 22.
Yeah. Yep. You're right.
And again, it's a long racetrack, 51 second laps, if not longer, for the quicker categories, not, including shifters. So, physically, I think a lot of the drivers, they handled it. It was pretty hot, but it was funny. Somebody thought Kremers was tired. He's like, no, I'll go another 26 laps. I just don't know if my tires will make it. So, so that was kind of the issue. But again, the track gets very greasy, especially in, anytime after noon. So that's part of the issue as well. And some of the last main events were in the afternoon. So that's part of it as well. So again, we'll learn more about it when we get to speed sports, how that racetrack handles things, how that the rubber lays down, how the track conditions there. Mark French would be a great person to learn from. Obviously, Alan Rudolph as well. So we'll have to dive into that once we get there in April.
Yeah, no doubt about that. What else was any final bits going on for the wrap up? We're good to go.
Yeah, no, just excited to head to Speed Sports Racing Park again. Yeah. That place you've been, I have not been to. A proper racetrack, it'll have the new David Cole Tower when I arrive.
Yeah, you should do that. You should rename that for sure.
And so just get In-N-Out Burger in Texas. So,
oh, dude, you're killing me.
There's a Domino's next door that just opened. Literally, I saw on Facebook this morning.
Oh, one of the things, I don't know that it'll be done yet, but it's happening. right outside the rental cart facility at Speed Sports. There, they're building essentially a food truck plaza kind of a thing. It's a bunch of containers, the sea cans, that they're all setting up for different food truck. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be probably, I would say, it'll be the best food experience of any kart track in North America the minute it's done. I'm not sure if it's done yet. We have to ask Alan how close they were building it when we were there. And I went for my day with Alan for the Super NAS last year.
Okay, so this was
it could be done by now.
Okay,
yeah, it could be done by now.
So you're saying it was right across the street?
No, it's not even across the street. It's right there. As when you there's obviously two entrances. When you go to Speed Sports, you enter into the rental cart side, or you enter around the corner into the actual competition side. But as you come into the rental cart side, it's to the right as soon as you come in. It's right there.
Okay.
Dude, it's going to be.
That's going to be.
It's going to be
exactly. I'm looking on Google Maps now just to know, because there's also hopefully I'm at the Best Western down the road, so I don't even have to drive my car there. I can just walk there.
And that Best Western's really nice too. That's a really nice hotel. Yeah.
So I'm thrilled. I'm excited. I'm
jealous.
I'm talking about, people are like, well, where are they going to park there? And I'm like, well, I think they're just going to park on the rental cart track. I'm not sure about that. I haven't confirmed that. If they don't, I'll obviously make laps there. If not, I'm sure Alan will let me get some laps in and something.
I think he will
on the pro track.
Yeah. There's there's enough room to park everybody there. And it's going to be very tight. But there'll be no motorhomes. The motorhomes can park in the RV park that's beside.
They've already talked about that. They have a cooperation with having spots at the RV resort next door.
Yep.
So I'm just excited to see how you guys talk about it, how this is a great racetrack, how it races really well.
It does.
It's a very physical racetrack.
There's at least 5 places to pass easily.
And Orlando's the same thing. It's a very physical racetrack. I mean, we had a couple of drivers sit out because of rib injuries. So
the thing about this track is you're not pounding the curbs like you are Orlando.
Right.
And I remember Jake French said at one point it was the most physical track he's ever driven at Speed Sports. But it's so much fun to drive, man. It's awesome. I loved it there.
Yeah, so excited.
All right, let's cap things off. Let's jump into the Constructors' Championship. 5 different brands winning over the 8 main events. And just 8 main events, David.
I love it. But it's still over 50%. So you got more than half different chassis brands winning. Cosmic, however, won 4. All Rollison Performance Group, with Rivera winning 2, Formal 1, and Rollison, of course, winning 1. DAP got its first victory here in the United States Pro Kart Series event program after, I believe, Joe Turney won in the SCUSA Winter Series program. Ellen Racing Kart picked up a victory, Kart Republic, and Nitro Kart rounding out the 5 chassis brands.
All right, let's cap this edition of the Debrief off with a look at the EKN Trackside Live race calendar today, brought to you by RaceLab. The new face of competitive karting in the Pacific Northwest region is RaceLab. The full-service karting operation is located at the state-of-the-art Kartplex facility in Oliver, British Columbia, Canada, providing everything you need to hit the track or put yourself in a successful driver development program. RaceLab is the official North American distributor for the TB Kart chassis brand, providing a full range of models from Kid Kart to Shifter Kart. Villeneuve Racing Karts is their flagship product, available only through RaceLab. The brand carries the name of Formula One champion and Indianapolis 500 winner Jacques Villeneuve, with each model produced by TB Kart. Follow RaceLab on social media on Facebook and Instagram, or load up their website at www.theracelab.ca to learn more about TB Kart and Villeneuve Racing Karts. All right, David, a couple of events, really East Coast, West Coast, because you're done at the USPKS event. I'll be back actually at Orlando Kart Center. My first trip to that facility on March the 31st to April 2nd. Nate Dean and I will be there to cover the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour Winter Nationals, the opening round of this year's Pro Tour. Looking forward to that. My turn to get to Orlando to watch a bunch of great racing. And then you and I will be back together April 14th, 15th, 16th. We head to Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California for the finale of this year's Challenge of the Americas.
Yeah, the SCUSA Winter Series or SCUSA Pro Tour Winter National is going to be an exciting weekend. Going to what is the March home for everyone in karting, Orlando Kart Center. following this weekend's Rock Cup USA Florida Winter Tour finale. Next week, everybody has off for the most part, except for those at the Texas Sprint Racing Series.
That's it.
And then back there to Orlando. So excited to see what happens there. I'll be following you and Nate online as I'm got my toes in the sand.
Oh, that's right.
And then excited to head back to Sonoma, Angelo's, everything that Sonoma brings. And the Challenge of the Americas finale, and again, get to see some exciting championship battles come to a close that weekend with 2 rounds of racing.
And another fantastic racetrack, Sonoma Raceway. There are just so many places to pass there. I love that track. I've had a chance to race there myself. David, you've got lots of laps from the facility too. It's a great track. Looking forward to getting out there to cap things off with the Challenge of the Americas family. And those of you who are part of that Rock Cup USA program, we look forward to seeing you and capping things off again in the middle of April. That wraps things up here, though, folks, from the EKN studio, as David has given us a full debrief of the United States Pro Kart Series opener, the Southern Grand Prix at Orlando Kart Center. This was episode number 109. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. We'll be coming right back around the corner. As we said, the Super Karts USA Winter Nationals at the end of the month. So an Outlap podcast coming for that for sure. We'll have the preview and have a look at the entry lists as the Super Karts USA program gets ready to start their National Pro Tour. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. Again, we do appreciate Parolin USA presenting our podcast here today. Thank you so much for tuning in on behalf of David Cole. My name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.